Here we have the Primal Muscle Primal Surge 10X pre-workout drink. This is watermelon flavor blend. So first we'll look at the label here. You can see this is the Primal Surge 10X pre-workout drink. This is 30 servings. Again, it's watermelon flavor. Then we'll come over to this side. So intensity, maximize focus, crush workouts. Yeah, bro. You know, I'm not picking on these guys. You know, that's what any pre-workout label is going to say. Does it work? You know, we'll get to that. I feel it does work, but you can read this here if you wish. All right, so that's the label. Let's go on over to the supplement facts now. All right, so first off, as you can see, suggested use is mix 1 scoop with 6 to 8 ounces of water and consume 30 minutes prior to training. And as they say, start with 1 scoop before you try to go to 2. That you definitely want to follow that. All right. And one thing I really like about this supplement, the Primal Muscle, is they don't use what's known as a proprietary blend, meaning we actually know the exact amount of each ingredient that's in here. So quickly go over these. I'll have information on the screen and or in the description for you to look further into each of these ingredients, because they do more than what I'm going to go over here. So we have niacin that can increase blood glucose levels. You don't want to take it long term or too much long term, because that can lead to insulin resistance. It may increase growth hormone secretions, and it also may cause a flushing or tingling effect. Then the old standby beta alanine, that's going to be in pretty much every pre-workout. So that buffers acid in the muscles. That increases performance in the 60 to 240 second range, which is perfect for anaerobic exercise, weightlifting. The 60 to 240 second range, that might be good for some of you guys for your lovemaking. I don't know. Asshole. It may aid in mass gains. It can cause a harmless tingling feeling. All right. So the arginine, or arginine, if that's how you prefer to say it, of course, arginine has a lot of benefits. Of course, a lot of the effects are reported with intravenous arginine, and oral supplementation is not as predictable, but we all know what arginine is for. And then of course there's citrulline, which is sort of like the arginine, or arginine, however you want to say it. Citrulline is actually more effective at increasing the arginine levels than supplementing with arginine alone. So of course, arginine, citrulline is blood flow, maybe energy, things like that. Then of course we have the carnitine. So perhaps some focus. Some people can report it as sort of a stimulant effect. Fat burning, if you're deficient in carnitine, might help with power output, and it goes well with caffeine. Then we have the L-Dopa. Okay, this is a direct precursor to dopamine. I'm not going to go into why we like dopamine. I went into that in a different video about this stuff here, the Finmax and some of the other fat burners that have the phenylethylamine or whatever in them that can increase dopamine. I'm not going to go in why higher dopamine is good, or can be good, of course. But it affects a lot of systems. Just go watch one of those videos where I delve deeper into the effects of dopamine and how it helps control all kinds of things, not just your mood, but even perhaps testosterone production, and help regulate prolactin. We're not going into that here. But that's the L-Dopa. Then we have the taurine. So again, that's blood flow, cramping, maybe some energy. Caffeine, do I really need to go into that? Obviously, this is a stimulant, but caffeine can do so much more. It influences dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, and of course, the adrenal system. And actually, there is a study from Japan. Again, I learned about this in the Jerry Brainham newsletter that shows that caffeine combined with lactate, which of course you're going to produce lactate every time you lift weights, might actually boost testosterone. So just a quick excerpt from that article. It says, as such, the lactate caffeine combo appears to mimic the effects of intramuscular IGF-1. So perhaps the most anabolic hormone in muscle. Of course, I think this was done on rats or something. So another excerpt says, thus it would appear that providing a LC, so lactate caffeine combo, produces both anabolic effects through activation of satellite cells and muscle-sparing factors, as well as anti-catabolic effects through induction of follostatin and consequent reduction of myostatin produced after exercise. All right, so caffeine is more than just a stimulant. Then we have the theobromine, which is another stimulant. Of course, affects the central nervous system. And finally, we're down here to the yohimbe. That's, again, another stimulant, fat burner, aphrodisiac, can aid in erectile dysfunction, and of course, increase adrenaline levels. All right, so that's just a quick run through of the ingredients. Let's go ahead and open this up. All right, so I've actually already opened this up, and I've already tried it and taken it. So of course there's going to be a safety seal. We already pulled that off, and what do you know? They actually include a scoop. Okay, this should be a lesson to all of the larger brands. This is not a huge brand. All right, larger brands, get your shit together and include a goddamn scoop in everything you fucking sell. It's fucking stupid to not include a scoop in anything that's going to last 30 days. Don't make me use a teaspoon or a tablespoon. That's stupid. Add a fucking scoop. Anyway, these guys, Primal Muscle, add a scoop. Thank you. Thank you for spending that 0.0001 penny to add the goddamn scoop. Universal Nutrition, I'm looking at you. There's no goddamn reason to not include a scoop, especially in your creatine. Come on. It's just fucked up. Anyway, moving on here. This actually smells pretty good. Let me go ahead and mix it up. I mean, what am I going to show you? It's just powder. That white thing, by the way, it's just one of those packs. Of course, you don't want to eat that. I don't know what am I going to show you. It's a pre-workout. It's powder. I mean, you know what it is. Come on, wasting time here. Let's throw it in some water so you can see how it mixes. So that's one scoop, which is what, 8.2 grams. And again, 6 to 8 ounces of water, and you'll want to follow that 6 to 8 ounces of water. All right, so there it is. You can see it mixes pretty quickly, pretty easily. And taste-wise, it's not bad at all, actually. A little bit of a chalky finish, but it doesn't taste too chemical flavored like some supplements can. I'm not going to drink this because I'm already flying on plenty of fat burners and caffeine and things like that. But I have taken it. And does it work? Does it increase your intensity, maximize focus, crush workouts? Well, obviously to a point. Like, I mean, come on, guys. It's not like you're going to take this and you're going to turn into the Incredible Hulk or anything like that. I did feel more focus. I did feel more energy. Something like this is great, especially if you're like me. You like to work out in the morning. It works great. All of those stimulants help wake you up and get you moving, get you focused, and maybe help you lift more. Maybe not, perhaps not through a direct, interaction from the ingredients, but just by making you more awake and focused. Therefore, you can lift more. I can't tell you, and I can't tell you how this is going to affect you. But I would say, they say drink this before your workout, 30 minutes. You can do that. If you want to take 2 doses, you could also add another scoop into a larger container of water, say, 30, 40 ounces, whatever you like to drink while you work out. You could have this in your workout drink, in your water, whatever, to add more energy as you go. Or instead of drinking it pre-workout, you could drink it, in that extra water while you're working out, if you want. Those are just some, ideas, things that I might do. As far as results, effects, I guess I should say. I didn't feel like I was flying, which is good because I don't really like to feel like I'm flying all the time. No crazy heart palpitations or heart pains or out of breath or insane sweating or anything like that. So there are stimulants in here. They are dosed correctly, as far as I can tell, especially the caffeine. That's a good dose of caffeine. Of course, you want to avoid taking in a bunch of other caffeine from other sources. You would not want to take this and something like a fat burner that has a ton of stimulants in it. You just don't want to do that. And of course, with prolonged use of caffeine, which I've been using caffeine for a while now, way too much. So it's, the effects start to decrease after time. You just get used to them. But I did feel more energy, felt pretty good on it. More energy, more, maybe a little more focus, and, a little more power output. So, it's a good pre-workout. It's similar to a lot of other pre-workouts. It's got a good list of ingredients. One thing I usually suggest when taking other stimulants, things like fat burners, is to usually avoid, things like arginine, and citrulline, which this is actually pretty cool because it has arginine, citrulline, and a bunch of other stuff in it. Usually I say don't be taking a lot of stimulants with arginine, simply because, and citrulline, of course, simply because, stimulants, they are vasoconstrictors, whereas with the arginine and citrulline, those are to enhance blood flow. Too much stimulants can really kill your pump. But of course, almost every pre-workout is going to be loaded with stimulants and something to hopefully increase blood flow and the pump. So these things kind of work against each other, although there are studies that show that they can work well together. I think those studies might have been done in rats, but again, you can look this up for yourself. Some people say pre-workouts are dangerous simply because of the inclusion of a lot of caffeine with arginine and citrulline. But again, you can look up that yourself. Overall, good product. Primal Muscle, Primal Surge. It tastes pretty good. It mixes pretty well. And you should check it out if you want. If you don't want to check it out, then don't. All right. But we got the scoop in there. Mixes well. Tastes pretty good for a pre-workout. That is for sure. And you will have more focus, more energy, and all the stuff they say right here on the label. Pretty cool stuff. There you go. Primal Muscle, Primal Surge 10X. Pre-workout.